Hey guys, Ken Stretz Tactical. I want to talk a little bit about the police patrol rifle. Uh, Obviously, today's day and age, we're moving away from the shotgun for police patrol use, and I think that's a wise move. I think the sun is setting on both the shotgun and the submachine gun in law enforcement, and rightfully so. I mean, submachine guns, take the MP5. That's kind of like the gold standard of submachine guns, and it's a great gun. It's accurate, reliable, controllable on full auto, but at the end of the day, it's just an easy to shoot pistol. Um, Up close and in the buildings and stuff, not a big deal unless the suspects were in body armor. And I've encountered several suspects over the course of my career that were wearing body armor. So it does happen, and the body armor is going to stop that 9mm round. It's not going to stop a 5.56 round. Plus, you go outside of a building, you got to take a shot at distance, or even, an active shooter in a school or something like that. You may have to shoot him at an extended, or take a shot at an extended distance, 100 yards or something. It does happen. Yes, I know most of the police-involved shootings are going to be close, but, if you do some research, there are instances of shots out there to 100 yards. The other thing is the shotgun. People don't, I know plenty of agencies, they shoot 5, 10, 20 rounds a year, once a year, sometimes every other year, and call their guys good. Hey, you're qualified, you can carry the gun. And that's just the furthest thing from the truth, I'll probably do a separate video on police shotguns, but I'm not going to get into depth about that, but the training with the police shotgun is not where it needs to be. And same thing, people don't understand their patterning and how far out, can I shoot the 00 buck, and, how do I do a select slug drill, or, does my agency issue me slugs, and if they do, are they in my pocket, are they in the car, are they mounted on the weapon, where are they mounted on the weapon? There's a lot to the shotgun that, people aren't really taught. And I'm going to do a separate video on police firearms instructors and police firearms training in general, because that is definitely not where it needs to be in 2013, and it's not where it should and could be in 2013, but that'll be a whole separate video. So police patrol rifle, obviously what most agencies are using generally is the AR-15 in some variant, or it's Colt or a Bushmaster or Smith & Wesson or Rock River, whatever else is out there. There's, just about everybody makes an AR-15 nowadays. But that's one of the problems. The fact that there's so many AR-15s out there, and that most cops and a good majority of police firearms instructors are not gun guys, you can end up getting anything. When I went to FBI carbine instructor school, there was an officer, a good guy, showed up with a Smith & Wesson M&P 15. It was like a New York compliant, well, it used to be New York compliant prior to this New York Unsafe Act. It had a slick barrel, so there's no flash suppressor or compensator or anything on it, and it had a collapsible stock that was pinned in the open position. And it's kind of like, what's up, dude? Would you just go to a local gun store and just buy whatever they had on sale that day? It's kind of crazy. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what are those officers being taught? And I think a lot of officers are not getting as much training on the weapon system as they should. I've heard of a couple of agencies, they got a half a day of training, or maybe they put people through 2 days of training. The course that I put on for the officers in my agency is 3 days long, and runs the gamut of just about everything you need to know. I mean, if I had my way, I'd probably do a 5-day course, and requalify, twice a year with the carbine, but just not realistic. There's just so much to it. Shooting at different distances, multiple targets, shooting on the move, transitions, low light training, malfunctions, on and on and on. So first of all, you got to select a good carbine. You can't go wrong with a Colt. They've been around for a long time. We've been making them for the military for a long time. My preference is commando length barrel, so 11.5 inch barrel. We have a bunch of them at work and never had any issues with them so far, knock on wood. I like the shorter package, you know, having a collapsible stock and a short barrel. Taking a gun in and out of the car to deploy it is going to be a lot easier than, you know, 16-inch barrel gun. Also in buildings, it's also lighter. You know, it's got a 11.5-inch barrel versus a 16-inch barrel, and it's a lightweight, what they call pencil barrel or whatever. So it's got reduced weight to it. You know, which is great for, you know, you standing on a perimeter for a while, or for tactical teams. You know, they got all the other gear and everything on, and you know, they may be in that gear for hours, usually in gear for hours. But so my preference, Colt, 11.5-inch barrel. Most agencies probably don't need something like an HK416. I know the piston guns are kind of like all the rage right now. You know, if you're shooting a lot of full auto, you're shooting suppressed. You know, I've heard people even say if you have a barrel length lower than 14.5 inches, you know, for increased reliability. Like I said, we've never had any issues with any of our guns, you know, thus far. So that's kind of my preference. After you've selected your good quality gun and you know your barrel length, and let me touch on that real quick too. You know, I know one agency in particular, they were concerned about having to do ATF paperwork, so they went with, you know, they wanted 16-inch barrel guns, so they didn't have to do ATF paperwork. Well, you really don't have to do the ATF paperwork. You know, when you order your guns through a distributor, or sometimes you can get them factory direct. It depends. I've gone down both roads. You know, I think we had to send an initial request, you know, purchase order, tax exempt forms, and you know, maybe something on letterhead and email or whatever, and you take it from there. But you know, in the case of like Colt, they do all the paperwork for the ATF, fax it to the ATF, ATF signs it, and sends it back to them. Once they get the paperwork, which takes 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, depending, you know, they'll ship out your guns. So there's another thing you can do too. If you're concerned about having NFA weapons or whatever, and I know an agency that did this, you can get a gun like this that has a 14.5-inch barrel that's been permanently pinned and welded in place. This one's actually been, they put it back on the machine, and they ground off where the pin was. You can see this job on here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you can see the weld mark here where the pin that was welded in place has been filed off. This job was done a little bit better, reparkerized and everything. So you got 14.5 inches plus an extended flash suppressor to bring you over 16 inches, where if you bought a gun off the shelf, 16 inches, or usually it's 16.1 inches, they give that extra 0.1, so if someone, the way they're measuring it or whatever, it still meets the, if there's any variances in the tolerances of making the barrels, there's no problems there. They're over 16 inches. So you get a 16.1 inch barrel gun plus the flash suppressor, and the gun's longer than 16 inches. The barrel's longer than 16 inches overall. So by going to a 14.5 with an extended flash suppressor, pin and welded in place, it's like a ½ inch longer than a true 14.5 inch barrel. Because if you took a 14.5 inch barrel, put the A2 flash suppressor on there, and put it next to this gun, you would see it's probably like an inch or so shorter than a true 16 inch barrel gun, because of the 16 plus the flash suppressor, and it's only about a ½ inch longer than a 14.5 inch gun with a permanently pinned and welded extended flash suppressor. So that's another route you can go if you should choose. So now you've selected your barrel length, your manufacturer. what else do you need? Well, some people think that's it. You know, they get the gun, they give, you know, maybe they zero it if they're smart enough to zero the gun. They give people a half a day of training and they send them on their way, and that just doesn't cut it, in my opinion. Two absolute non-negotiables are a sling and a flashlight. My preference for slings is a 2-point quick adjust tactical style sling, like a Viking Tactics, like I have here. What's good about a Viking Tactics sling is you can tighten it down nice and tight against your body. Make sure I can still see this on the camera. So if you need to handcuff or climb a ladder or, you know, rappel or whatever you need to do, you know, do buddy aid. You can even flip it around the back. You know, it's out of the way, but it's snug against your body. You know, I'm not a big fan of single point slings. You know, people say, oh, well, you let the single point sling, you know, go and you can transition or whatever. Yeah, but they'll smack you in the groin. You know, you kneel down, and if you don't have control over the gun, muzzle strike the dirt, get dirt, rocks, debris in your muzzle. Just not a big fan of them. They're great for switching shoulders, but you know, you get in a prone position or whatever. I'm not a big fan. 2-point quick adjust like this, you can either tighten it like I just showed you, or you can let out all the slack. You can switch shoulders. If you had to shoot around left side barricade, but I think it's a really good type of sling. Definitely need a sling, flashlight. You need to be able to navigate, whether you're in a building, darkened building, you're out in the wooded area at night or in a street or whatever. You need to be able to navigate. You need to be able to search for people, and then you need to identify those people when you find them. Is it another officer? Is it a suspect? Is it a homeowner? Is it a civilian, you know, or a suspect? And do they have a weapon? Do they not have a weapon? Or hey, there's a person with a weapon. Do they have a badge around their neck or on their belt, or a police raid jacket? You need to be able to identify. So two non-negotiables, in my opinion, are a sling and a flashlight. One of the things I've seen officers cry over the years is, well, the sling, it gets caught on things and this and that. Well, it's real simple. You S-fold the sling. So basically you release all the slack out of the sling, tighten it against the weapon, and when you get down to the stock, you fold it in the shape of an S and rubber band it onto the weapon system. Then when you need to deploy it, what you got to do is just yank on, of course this was a little difficult on camera here, but just yank on the sling and the rubber band will let loose. Worst case scenario, you pull on the rubber band a little bit and throw the weapon on. But it'll keep it out of the way. Once in a while, you may have to readjust the the sling, repack them. It's not a big deal, but it'll keep people from crying. It'll keep it from getting hung up. Otherwise, I've seen officers, oh, let's just take this off the gun. Well, why? You know, why don't you just refold it and rubber band it out of the way onto the stock of the weapon system? From there, there's a couple other things I would recommend. I mean, those are the bare minimum. Sling and the flashlight, like I said. Another real cheap piece of insurance is a muzzle cap. You know, 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever they are. You keep money into your barrel. Sometimes they can either corrode a little bit, so you just want to lube up that flash suppressor a little bit, just a light coat of oil or whatever, and on the inside of the cap. But it'll prevent any dirt, debris, whatever, from getting in there. I remember years ago hearing stories from a few different officers on different departments of, they had the shotguns in between the seats, guys smoking their cigars or whatever and tapping their cigar ashes down the barrel, or they finish their cigarette and they drop it down the barrel. God knows what else went down those barrels. Put a muzzle cap on it, you don't have to worry about that. The other thing is, if they're out on a perimeter, they're searching for someone to take a kneeling position, and they jam their barrel in the mud or whatever, and they get an obstructed bore, they touch off a round, it could be a bad day. Maybe not, but it may. So it's just a cheap piece of insurance. Um, the other thing is magazines. You know, 1 is none, 2 is one, 3 is better. The weakest link in a magazine-fed weapon is the magazine. So if you have one and it malfunctions, you start getting double feeds, whatever the case may be. Now what do? You just got to transition your pistol, or you dump that magazine and get another one in there. Or maybe whatever happened, you're not making your hits and whatever. One of those LA North Hollywood bank robbery type shootouts or something. Guys are launching a lot of rounds, whatever the deal is. You know, they may run out. You know, odds are only be a handful of rounds will be fired. You know, that's what happens in the average police shooting. But you should, you know, bank on the above average situation happening, worst case scenario. So why not have another magazine? Also, there have been magazines that have been shot during shootouts, and magazine gets shot, and it's done, you know, most of the time. So 1 is none, 2 is one, 3 is better. Now there's several different ways you can secure them. I know one agency just takes a spare magazine, throws it in the side door, excuse me, side door of the police car. What good is that? You know, that magazine's bouncing around, or the rounds getting kicked out, you know, dirt, dust, debris, paperwork, pens, whatever getting caught in there. It's kind of silly. You know, the other thing I've seen is they won't give them a 30-round mag, they'll give it a 20-round mag as a second mag, and they'll put it on the pouch on the stock. I don't like that either, because you know, you switch shoulders, it gets in the way, and can interfere with your cheek weld. It's just kind of like putting it on the stock. It's just not a good place for a magazine. I have one on my duty belt. I can put a 20-round. It'll take a 30-round, but 20s take up less space. It's a plastic holder that my pistol magazine's actually attached to the outside of. You know, but again, that's more weight on your body all day long. So what I've found for general patrol rifle use is the Ready Mag, lightweight Ready Mag. This one's got some relief cuts milled into it to reduce the weight of it. And basically how this works is you have a empty magazine, empty weapon here. Empty magazine in the magazine well of the weapon, and another magazine in the Ready Mag. So now I got 2 magazines with the gun at all times, one in the weapon system and one in the Ready Mag. And they operate independently of each other. So if I had a malfunction with the weapon and I need to get the magazine out to clear it, I just hit the magazine release, magazine in the weapon drops out. I can, you know, use my fingers to clear any obstructions, any rounds or whatever out of the magazine well, and I can either reinsert this magazine back into the weapon, or if that magazine is suspect of, you know, causing double feeds or whatever, I can just slide over and go to my second magazine, or if I run out of ammunition. And it, like I said, it runs independent. It's covered, so you don't have to worry about the rounds being exposed to the elements or whatever. It's shielded, and you just hit that release and it comes out. And it's a pretty fast reload. So I can basically hit the magazine release and the Ready Mag release at the same time, and then just switch over. Hit the bolt release, and I'm reloaded. So it's, you know, it adds a little more weight, and there's some cost to them. I think they're like 140, 150, something like that. So there's a little bit of cost to them, but you know what? I think it's, you know, it's worth it. From there, the other thing I would recommend is a good quality red dot. One I like the best is the Aimpoint T1 Micro 2-minute of angle dot. I mounted in a LaRue quick detach mount, and then I have backup iron sights. You know, batteries die, especially if you have something like an EOTech. I've seen the batteries die, I've seen the mounts loosen up, battery compartment pop open and batteries fall out. I'm not a fan of EOTechs. I know they're a little cheaper, but you know, I've heard a lot of bad things about them, and I've seen it firsthand. So I'm not a fan of them. Aimpoint. So to pick it up where I left off, talking about optics. Two really popular ones, Aimpoint, EOTech. Like I started saying, I've seen a lot of problems with EOTech, heard a lot of problems. I know there's a couple of big name special operations units that use EOTechs, but there's a couple of guys from those same units who favor Aimpoint over EOTech for the same reason. And just because a particular unit has a particular weapon or a particular sight or a particular piece of kit doesn't necessarily mean you should have it or you need it. So again, my preference, Aimpoint T1 Micro, 2-minute of angled dot, mounted in the LaRue Tactical Quick Detach mount, and with the IO, the Tango Down IO cover on it. It's zeroed at 100 yards. Backup iron sights are 100% co-witnessed. So the field of view in my, when I'm picking up my red dot and my irons are all in one. So if I'm shooting, my dot goes out, I just transition right to my irons. Everything's same. I don't have to change my cheek weld or anything. Some people prefer a lower 1/3 co-witness so that your iron sights are a little lower. You have to just change the angle of your head a little bit to pick up your iron sights. I'd rather have everything be same, so you don't have to move or change and any of that. The reason I have the cover is protect the lens. The cover that comes on the Micro is I think it was a bikini cover if I remember right. Kind of gets in the way. So Tango Down came out with the IO cover. It's got a front and rear cap. It just falls off to the side. The way I set it up is I mount the Aimpoint directly in front of the backup iron sight. So the backup iron sight provides some protection against the glass from getting hit with something and damage. And I just Velcro this off to the side. The way I tell guys to go out on patrol, keep the front cover closed to protect the front lens. Turn your dot on to whatever setting you want for your shift. Probably have to be a little brighter during the day, and you can probably dial it down at night, or if you're going in the building. But beginning of the shift, turn it on. Leave the cover closed. I mean, you should be checking your weapon system anyway. Check your light. You should check to make sure that the battery in the red dot is good to go, hasn't died anyway. So why not just turn it up and get it ready to go. The other reason for that is you deploy the gun, pull it out of the car, charge it, do a press check if you got time, and you throw the gun right into action. If all you have time to do is to chamber around, and now you have an immediate threat, and you forget to open your front cover, your dominant eye will pick up the red dot, your non-dominant eye will pick up the target, and your brain will put them together, and you can get accurate hits on target. Is it ideal? No. You want to have it open, so you have a full field of view here. You can see right through the sight, and you'll have an increased situational awareness. You don't want something occluding your vision, but you also don't want to damage your optic. So you kind of have the best of both worlds in a sense, I guess, in an emergency situation where you just have enough time to load the gun and throw it up to take a shot. Otherwise, as you're deploying the gun, you chamber your round, make sure the dot's on and bright enough for you, and you fold it off and secure it. Basically, the front one is a little smaller than the rear cap, and it fits right in. So that's pretty much these things. If money is no object, I'd probably add on a suppressor. Surefire suppressors are pretty good. And now they make some really small ones, the mini and the micro. And I think they're only compatible with certain barrel lengths. So that's something you got to do some research on. But good quality gun, a quality tactical sling. Again, my choice is a 2-point quick adjust padded sling like a Viking Tactics or Vickers Tactical. A flashlight, bare minimum. Add in a muzzle cap, protect your muzzle from getting debris in there. A ready mag for having a second magazine, and an optic co-witness with backup iron sights. Backup iron sights should be in the up position. You may not have time to flip up the sights, in a gunfight should your main sight go down, your red dot go down. So 100% co-witnessed and in the up position all the time. And then if you got a suppressor or the funds for a suppressor, have at it. Short one that actually works would be my preference. Some of them work a little better than others, but the shortest one you can get, I guess, that does its job, does its intended job, reducing the noise damage, and that's a big thing. You start touching off these rounds, especially shorter barrels, and in a car or in a building, you're gonna know it. So it can end up saving your hearing and keeping officers from going out line of duty or retiring, I guess, potentially from perforated eardrums or whatnot. That's about it. Training I touched on earlier. I would say a very minimum 3-day course, and a full 1-day requalification every year on top of any other qualifications you may do if you do handgun or handgun and shotgun or whatever. A full day just on a carbine, including low light and all the fundamentals, malfunction, shooting on the move, transition to pistol, all the core stuff in there in the training program, and then of course whatever your qualification course is. But it's got to be a full day, not hey, let's go to the range for a couple hours, get my overtime, get qualified and go home, because one day your life may depend on it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share my videos or suggest my YouTube channel to friends. You could also check me out on Facebook, Stretz Tactical on Facebook, and check out my website. And if you're in the New York area, I'd love to see you at a class. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the range.